Gail Halvorsen was an ordinary person who did something extraordinary. He transformed the world. He saved democracy around the world. It sent ripples through history.
He grew up on a sugar beet farm in Garland, Utah. Sugar beet farming is very difficult to do, and you're on your hands and knees and your nose is practically on the ground as you thin the sugar beets. And he wasn't sure he wanted to do that the rest of his life.
The airplanes flew overhead on their way to Malad. I wanted to be up in the air clouds with them.
He worked really hard to get his pilot's license, and he accomplished something that for a poor farm boy was really difficult to achieve.
More pilots were needed for the war effort, and I signed up with the Army Air Corps in '42.
When he joined the Air Force, he ended up in the Ferry Command, where he flew C-47s, C-54s.
And there was a call in 1948 for pilots to fly supplies into Berlin as the Russians had closed all access points to Berlin through the rail or on the ground. And the only way to get into Berlin was 3 air corridors.
I went immediately to Germany. Early in the days of the airlifts, on a break from flying flour and coal into Berlin, I noticed a group of children landing by the barbed wire fence surrounding the airport. We talked to each other for almost an hour. I was impressed with their gratitude for freedom, their desire for us to keep going with the airlift. If we lose our freedom, we may never get it back, and they meant it. As I turned to leave, a voice in my head said, "Go back and give them your 2 sticks of gum."
So he pulled out 2 wriggly sticks of gum, and he passed them through the fence. And the kids got it and got really excited, and they split it into pieces. And the people who didn't get any gum split the wrapper into pieces and smelled the wrapper. So he said, "Tomorrow I'll come back and I'll bring you some more candy." And they asked how they would know it was him, because airplanes were flying over every couple of minutes. And he said that he would wiggle his wings.
He went back and told his crew what he'd done, and they said, "You're going to get us court-martialed." And he said, "It'll be okay, it'll be okay." So they took all their rations and invested them in candy bars and gum. And they used handkerchiefs for the parachutes.
The next day, he flew overhead and dropped down the chocolate. And
as they circled around after they unloaded all the cargo, they were taxiing out to take off. The kids were at the fence waving 3 white handkerchiefs.
And so he did it again in secret. And after a couple of days, he saw that the 25 kids had turned into 100 kids. Soon the 100 kids turned into 1,000 kids.
So he told his buddies, "Let's drop candy one more time, and that'll be it." So he got a lot of candy together. He dropped it one more time. So when he got back to his base at Rye, Maine, he says he pulled in and a Jeep pulls up, and an official looking Air Force guy came out and said, "Who's flying this airplane?" He said his buddies pointed at him and said, "He is," meaning Gale. He went up to his commanding officer's office and he asked Gale, he said, "What have you been doing?"
"Flying like mad, sir." "I'm not stupid," he said. "What else have you been doing?" And then I knew he knew. Pulled out a newspaper, threw it on the counter. "My airplane, tail number, parachute." "You almost hit a newspaper guy in the head of the candy bar yesterday. He's got the story all over the world." "Halvorsen, you didn't have permission."
He could have gotten court-martialed for doing that. You're not supposed to throw anything out of an airplane but bombs. And he was throwing candy bars, but it was such a refreshing act of kindness that it just brought the German-American relations together.
So that's when he said, "Look, General Tunner, like what you're doing, keep doing it, and even do more."
And he became the hero and the hope giver for all of West Berlin.
By the end of that summer, there would be 10,000 people sometimes gathered at the Tempelhof fence, waiting for these parachutes to fall.
During the airlift, I was 7 years old. I asked then my mother to go to Airfield Tempelhof. catch their parachute, and many other kids were there, and I was not so quick, yes. And I was going home with my mother, and I cried the whole time. And when then I arrived at home, my grandmother told me, do something, don't cry. And I decided to write a letter to Halvorsen to beg him for a parachute dropping. And this was in October. And then in November, came a letter from him, from Airfield Tempelhof. And there was a casualty gun and a lifesaver hole.
There were hundreds of pilots in the airlift. He was the only one that spotted those kids and wanted to do something for them.
What he started and helping to heal wounds of a war was a public relations coup for World War II and rebuilding German-American relations.
He exhibited really the best of what America is all about: kindness, compassion, courage.
I don't think he ever envisioned what passing 2 sticks of gum would do, but that taught me the lesson of the little things are important in life.
Look outside yourself and just be aware of what other people are going through, and be aware of how you can help people, how you can lift them up.
Service above self. That's what he taught.
I love him. He is the type of man that I think men should aspire to be.
Happiness does not come from material goods. I believe it comes from doing something for someone else to make their life better.